Today is day 26 of the Karen Reed trial. I'm going to give you my daily recap. Today we still have Dr. Marie Russell on the stand. She's being cross-examined by Hank Brennan. I felt like he went down a few lines of questioning where he was just trying to make a point that wasn't going to be there, and he potentially offended the witness a few times. And because she is an older woman who's extremely qualified and educated, I don't know how this sits with the jury, but personally, I didn't like his approach. Hank Brennan wants to know if her opinions on John's wounds had changed after testifying last year and versus the hearings that they've had for pretrial for this proceeding, and she says no. He says that someone helped her with the report. She had mentioned that in a previous hearing, I believe in December, that somebody from the defense counsel was helping her with her report, and she said it was more just for organization. It wasn't the contents of the report. And he is saying that he asked if it was one of the attorneys, and you had said it was no, but I guess he found out that it was Alessi, and she doesn't remember. She's saying that she wrote the whole report. He just was someone who helped organize it. They go down a line of questioning because she rode in the car with Mr. Alessi this morning, and he had mentioned to her to ask for the transcript from a previous hearing if she couldn't recall. And Brennan was like, when did he say that to you? And what were the contents of your conversation? And she says they didn't speak about the case. That's the only thing that they talked about. Overall, the gist of the questioning, he was asking if the wounds on the left, I won't show the screenshot of John's arm wound, but far left, like closer up to his bicep, he was asking if that could be teeth or nails. She believed it was most likely teeth. We start talking about upper versus lower teeth. Did you ever change your mind about the source of these abrasions? She said no. Did you ever claim that these abrasions were from upper or lower teeth? She said it could be either. She assumed it was upper based on her opinion. She also says that we have to take into account, we don't know like the elasticity of John's skin. That comes into effect. We don't know the positioning of his arm exactly when the dog bit him. And then he kind of like gets kind of offensive and is asking if she is an accident reconstructionist. Did you study the vehicle? Did you take measurements of the vehicle? Are you qualified to give medical opinions on wounds? And she is. She has been an emergency room physician for so many years. At one point, it was really sad. He asked her if she had any problem with her memory or memory loss, and she went, no. And it was really sad. I think that especially because of her age, she maybe would think that people would think that about her, but she is on it. She does not have memory loss problems. This part I thought was really poor for him. I thought it looked so good for the defense when you think about it. He was asking about the statements that Karen had made immediately after when she found John O'Keefe's body, that where I hit him. And she says that it's very common for people involved in traumatic incidents to have a grief reaction. They could last years, but it's usually brief, and it can include a variety of reactions. So to me, I think this played better to favor of the defense because she did do those things, or if she did, based on what these EMTs and paramedics are saying, then it could have been a part of a grief reaction, so that could be explaining why she would have done that. Hank Brennan asks if she knew that the clothing from John O'Keefe was swabbed for animal DNA, and Alessi immediately asks for a sidebar. They go to sidebar. The jury goes on the morning break, and then we have Alessi arguing for a mistrial. I did not see this coming today. And he says that the jury has now been made aware of DNA. The Commonwealth did not bring the witness, Terry Kuhn, to admit that info. They could have done that. If you remember from the first trial, there was no dog DNA found. There was actually pig DNA found, which was odd. But he says the defense has been meticulous in not bringing this information up in front of the jury in this case. And the first trial was totally separate. So the prosecution has put the topic of DNA in the jury's minds. It can't be reversed. He's asking for a mistrial with prejudice. I'm not even going to say any more about the argument because she immediately denies it. And then eventually the jury ends up coming back. She also says, yes, you're able to go down this line of questioning. And then Brennan asks if she was aware that John O'Keefe had trace DNA and a hair found on the SUV. She says yes, and that wouldn't surprise her or change her conclusions because he had been in that car a number of times and that vehicle was parked in his garage from time to time. In front of the jury, he asks, was she aware that the DNA was tested from the shirt and had no dog DNA? In fact, it was pig DNA, and she says yes. Did it change your findings? She says no. Hank Brennan then asks about the shards of plastic or glass that was found in John O'Keefe's clothing and that was tested. And she says this also doesn't change her findings. She understands that the clothing was on the floor of the hospital and all kinds of things like that, so it doesn't change anything. Alessi does the redirect and he reads quotes from 2 peer-reviewed articles that are, I think, case studies. They're written by other authors. But a lot of the contents of those 2 case studies supports exactly her findings about the patterns and identifying the factors of the bites. The second article explains the reasoning behind incomplete bite, that dogs typically don't use all of their teeth at the same time, so you won't see like all of the teeth in one bite. It says that parallel scratch marks accompanying the bites could be from claws. And he starts to go down a path about confirmation bias. She says it's important to have a broad theory of what happened and go through each scenario, and that's exactly what she did in this case. Brennan gets into some more redirect. He asks a question about this report from Dr. Welch, who is another medical examiner that took a look at the autopsy report. And eventually when Alessi comes back for more redirect, he reads from the report. It says the ultimate findings of his report are that there are no conclusion that may be from a variety of mechanisms. The absence of additional information prohibits the finding of a specific underlying cause of death. So I'm not sure why Brennan would bring this up, but this is just another person bringing up, I know Irini Scorti-Bello testified about manner of death, but now he is saying there's no conclusion to the cause of death here. So it didn't change any of her findings, she says. I also wanted to say that we have some new people sitting with John O'Keefe's family. This gentleman, I can't remember his name, but he was also in the ID documentary with Karen Reed. And he's good friends with John O'Keefe. They grew up together in Braintree. But these 2 women I've never seen before. I'm not sure who that is. I have seen her the past few days, but we just gotta stay up to date on that. Dr. Marie Russell is all done. Our next witness is Nicholas Barrows. He works for the Dighton Police Department. We will hear about it later, but the Commonwealth called him last time. He is the police officer that was there when the car was towed from the Reed residence in Dighton and brought to the Canton Sallyport. So let's get into his questioning. He's saying he received a call from Michael Proctor at 2:30 p.m. saying he was coming to Dighton to tow a vehicle involved in a homicide. Alan Jackson gets into questioning to ask if you know any of these major players. Do you know Brian Albert? Do you know Brian Higgins? He says no. To all of these people. He's not involved with Canton PD or Mass State Police at all. He doesn't know Michael Proctor. He arrived at the house in Dighton and observed the black Lexus SUV. He says that Sergeant Buchanan and Michael Proctor were there when he arrived. He observed the vehicle, but not the whole vehicle, and did see the rear of the vehicle. He noted that there was damage to the taillight. There was a crack and a piece missing. He says it was about 6 inches by 3 inches. They end up showing some pictures to him to kind of clarify what he saw. This is the picture that he's shown. This is from the Canton Sallyport, and he says that is the black Lexus, but that is not the condition of the taillight. The vehicle, he's saying what parts were missing, but he's saying this is like fully gone, and this is not the condition it was in. They show a closer image. He's like, nope, that's not what it looked like. Brennan is doing the cross exam. He's asking about how many times he's met with the defense team. It comes out that he had actually gone to their hotel after the first trial and met in person. He says he's seen a lot of coverage about this case on social media and the news. Brennan asks if seeing all this has affected his memory, and he says it's possible. He didn't testify about the break in the taillight last time because he wasn't asked. He was called by the Commonwealth. Basically, he says this is what the taillight looked like when I was in Dighton. So that's what we have for day 26. He's all done for the day. They're going to call a new witness tomorrow for day 27.